Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you to be here. I'm Daniele. I'm from zoolenders.com. If you don't know us, first I think I don't have slides because I'm lazy. No, because I want to show some real world situation. So if something breaks, it's his fault. So I'm Daniele. I work with zoolenders.com, which is a website that builds and sells custom zoo extensions, together with Million and a couple of other guys. So what I want to do today is go through a process of creating a custom application for Zoo, which can be done by any integrator. You don't need to be a developer. You just need to know XML and maybe a bit of HTML. So all the first part of the presentation will be achievable by any Joomla administrator or integrator. While at the end, maybe I will do a couple of extra things for developers or designers if they want to go a bit further with the customization. So I created a public repo on GitHub. So if you want to have the code I'll be using during the presentation, it's all online. It's all downloadable and installable in your Zoo site. So please feel free to just go there and download. So let's start. First, a small survey. Integrators. How many of you are integrators? Okay, everyone. Designers. So templates and something like that. Okay, and developers? Oh, we have a bit of them. Great. So let's start. We at Webble, which is my Italian company, which is part of Zoolenders, we do website for clients, and 99% of them are built upon Zoo, from catalogs to normal website to custom things. We try to stick with the tools we use and know best. So we try to use Zoo for nearly everything. And what we do usually is download Zoo, install it, and decide what the client needs for his website. So if it's a product catalog or a download section in his website, or a blog or whatever, we don't use any of these, which are, if you use Zoo, you know that these are the pro application you find when you download Zoo. We always build a custom application, which is not really custom. It's just a copy of one of these, but with a custom icon or a custom name. So when the client logins into his website, it has the feeling of something built just for him, with a custom name, a custom icon, and you can have it in the control panel, here. So it just logs in and finds this or whatever. And that helps with the customization of the website. And also because when I update Zoo, I don't have the risk of having some custom modification I did for the template go bad because of an update to the layouts or something like that. So we always do that. So I want to share with you my usual process, what I think can be called the most secure way of doing custom application. So instead of duplicating one of those, I create one from scratch that you can use as like a blank template for your application, without having all the extra files that come with the specific Zoo application that you download from the yootheme website. So let's go with step one. Step one is just a blank application. So just custom name, custom version information, custom icon, and that's it. So no layouts, nothing. It doesn't work. It doesn't have any type. But it's useful if you want to know what Zoo requires to make a new Zoo application. So if you don't know, Zoo stores the application in its media folder. So it's media Zoo applications. And when you just add a new one there, Zoo will pick it up and show it in the backend and the configurations. So I don't know if you can read it. Okay, it's demo application. As in any template extension in Joomla, the folder name is the name, the alias of the application. And Zoo to run needs, there's a small README here. So if you go later on GitHub, you can still know about all these comments I do.
The different steps are tagged in GitHub?
Yep. So this is the exact copy of the repo.
We can take out step 1 and then we take.
Yeah, for example, it's on MD, so if you browse here, step 1 is basic app structure and code, blah, blah, blah. And when you go inside, I don't know if the network works, so, well, yes, all the steps. Yep. And all the steps are also commented, so when you go into each folder, you have a README with a cool presentation. So these are the files that are actually needed for Zoo to pick up the new application. So the PHP file, it's needed, and the XML file, it's needed, plus the icon just for graphic cool thing. So XML, which is similar to any Joomla XML installation file. So name, the group has to be, as you see here, has to be the folder name. And then it's only descriptive information. And then there is these sections, which I will go in deeper later on, but basically are the parameters for the entire application. So you can like customize the behavior of the entire application, like items per page, or I don't know how many columns for the categories page you have, or actually anything you want to add as a parameter for your application. You can add as many as you want. You can use them in your templates later. And then you have the PHP file, which is just an empty class with the name of the application. It's just needed for picking it up. So if I just install this, I'm doing it with and so it's easier. And go into my backend, Zoo will pick it up automatically without having to actually go through an installation process, because it's all file-based. So you just browse through the folder and find the new application. When I go inside, obviously I don't have any type, because if I go into my applications, the types folder is empty. And I could go in here and start using the Zoo interface to build a new type and start working on my application. So this is what I call the blank state of the application. And I always start from this point. So first thing I do, install Zoo and use this one. And then I think, what the client needs for his website. So for example, in this case, we'll use a t-shirt catalog as an example. So the client needs to display a list of t-shirts with a series of informations like image, title, description, and maybe, I don't know, the size or the color of the t-shirt. So what I will do now when I build the website is go through new, create a type, t-shirt, save it, and then populate the elements. So because I'm lazy, I already did that. And so when you actually go and refresh here, I have the new type, t-shirt. And if you edit the elements, I already inserted this, which is an SKU, so like just a code that the client can use with his, I don't know, ERP system. The image, which I'm using Image Pro, which is our element. You can use the normal one from Zoo. We just like to use our own tools. And description. And this is my type. So this is the next step I do. So I like do something like a wireframe. So as if I would do a custom component. I would say, okay, the types, the classes, the objects I need in my application are t-shirt plus, I don't know, hat and related items, and I will create the types that reflect that behavior for the client website. And then I think what kind of views are needed in the website. So if there is a teaser view, so a list of all the products, and if there is a full view, so the view of a single product, and if there are other views, like, I don't know, a special offer view page, or a listing page for all the ASCII or all the codes or something like that, so I can start building my layouts. I always start from a blank layout because we do always custom templates for the client, so we don't use the native Zoo graphics. We integrate the graphic of Zoo in our template, so we always start from scratch even there. So step 2, we go through the template creation process, and that's.
But let's ask the types you just did. Was that accessing the database or an XML?
Nope, it's a JSON file, and I can show you. It's t-shirt.config. So this is, I don't know if anyone is interested in this, but it's very cool because when you drag and drop the item inside your type in the backend, it creates a new entry in this JSON file. Assigning it a primary key, which is not an integer. It's an UUID. And you can then have unlimited number of parameters for each element without bothering with performance, because being a JSON and NoDB style configuration file, you don't have 3-4 tables with configuration objects that you can then join, blah, blah, blah. It's very fast, and you can add as many options as you want. This is just the element configuration, so what you find here in this view, while the display configuration is elsewhere. So back to the topic. If you have questions, please interrupt and ask them, because maybe I skip something that for me is, easy to do, but maybe for someone is not clear. So the step 2 is templates. So I create a new template. I always call it default. I don't know why. Just easy to remember. And you can create actually as many templates for your application as you want, because you could maybe have, I don't know, 3 t-shirt catalogs in your site, and with different graphics, because maybe one is sport and the other is, I don't know, JAB t-shirts and whatever, and you want the layout to reflect what the t-shirt is actually about. So you can have one single instance with all the code, but the templates have slightly different layouts and interfaces. So what you need to build a template? You just need the XML file as always, name, versions, blah, blah, and you can even here add custom configuration that are not for the entire application, but are only if you use this actual template. So every graphic setting should go here and not in the global configuration, just as a best practice. So show title, show description, or items per page, or those kind of settings should be in the template, because those are only graphic settings. There are two different sections, the group category and the group item here. These settings will go in both in the global application, and each category will have a copy of this configuration, so you can override the configuration per category. And same thing goes for the items. So if you want just one item to have a different graphic setting, you can override the configuration just for that item from the Zoo interface in the backend. When you do that, you will need then 3 basic template files, which are the 3 main Zoo views you have. The first one is the front page view. The front page view is is shown only when you actually link from the menu item to frontend. And that's the only way you can actually go to that page. And there is no way from items or category to go back to that one. So when you go there, what you can do is actually whatever you want. By default, Zoo uses front page to show root categories, so the categories you have in the root level, and the front page items. So all the items you actually mark as front page in your Zoo application. So every front page marked item should be shown in the front page. It's not a given. You can actually don't write that piece of template, but it's expected of you, so you should do so. So front page. I will quickly go through the code. If you have questions, stop me, please. So this is the view you will see when you link to the front page. So let's have also a demo page. Lost JAB13. So when I click here, I set the menu item to go to the front page level. So you click here, and I have my view. No style, sorry, I'm not a designer. So what I did here was check if the user set the show title parameter to yes, and actually display the title of the application. So if I go to my template settings in the backend, which are both in the global section, so if you go here, I have a title, description, image, or I can also go to the front page and override that just for the front page which usually is global, but I could, I don't know, uncheck it and go hide. And if I do this, I hope that anything all works correctly. Where's the save button? Yep, that's it. Now it's the template, the projector solution, which is okay. So the title is front page JAB13. Let's call demo, and I set the title off. So if I coded it correctly, the title goes away, because when you have the template, I'm actually checking if that parameter is set. And then I just render what I set as a title in the front page. And then I do the same for the description. I do the same for the image. So I always check if the user wants to actually display that. And then I show the root categories. So Zoo already gives me the categories I should show, which is selected categories. And then I decide to just display the name of the category with a link to it. But I could also display its image or its description. It's a choice of the designer to actually choose what is shown of the category in the front page. And then I do the same for the items. So going back here, I have the image of the front page, description of the front page, the two categories here. There is no CSS, so it's not that good looking. And then there is the first front page item I marked, which is this super special T-shirt of JAB13 as a product market as front page. So if I just disable this one goes away. So this is the front page view. We'll go deeper into the how to render items later, because it's a very peculiar way of Zoo to render each item. Then there is the category view, the category template. It's exactly the same as the front page. It's just used for each category instead of the front page. Here you will just show children categories and items, because you don't want front page items to be shown here. So it's the same, exactly the same structure, just without the front page items. And then you have the item view, which actually displays the single item using the full layout, which I will explain in a bit. So these are the only things you actually need to build a new template in Zoo. And then you have this thing, which is not a Joomla thing. I don't think any other Joomla application has this kind of concept. Only FOF lately has something like this for XML forms. It's a renderer. So what the renderer does is take an item, take a layout with a list of parameters, and decide how to render the item with that layout using a list of parameters. So it's just a parser. So what you want to do is create at least one layout for the items and have a list of positions in which you can put all the elements of that item. So for example, I created two different layouts here, which is the teaser, which I will use to show items in a list, and the full one, which is used for displaying items in a single item view. So what I need to do for these two layouts to actually work in the backend administration is create a metadata XML file. It's all commented, so I will not go through each parameter, but basically you just need to list which layouts you want to be available to the user in the backend. Then you have a position XML file, which is just a list per layout list of position available in that layout, like the module positions in your template. The concept is exactly the same. So as in the template, you say you can place the module in top, bottom, left, right, content, whatever. In the renderer, you can say, I want to display my Zoo elements inside top, bottom, left, right, related, author, whatever. So you can just list them. When you have these two and the corresponding PHP files, you're actually done. So when you go to the backend configuration settings, you will see that full and teaser actually appears for these templates, and you can have different layouts for different templates, and they will just be listed here. And when you enter in the single layout, you will see the various positions you defined in the XML file before. So title, media, descriptions are here. XML, teaser layout, free position. If I wanted, I could just do this. And JAB13 position with the JAB13 title. And beyond. Let's copy that over. And if I did everything correctly, there's this new position here that I can then use to drag and drop additional elements in that position. For each element in each layout, you can also customize all the options for how to display that item. So even if the same element is shown in different places around, you can decide different displaying parameters for each position you have. So you can drastically reduce the amount of information you need the user to input for even if you have multiple views. So the classic example is the images. In most components, like the content or whatever, or any other catalog, you have the teaser image and the full image. And in almost every case, the teaser image is just the full image resized. So why would you add two different fields just for the same thing in two different dimensions? If that's your case, you can just create one element image and place it in both the teaser layout, in the full layout, and change just the resizing information, which, for example, here I can set. And Zoo will automatically resize your image once, store it in the cache, and use the two different images created in each layout. So you can do this for everything, like teaser description, or, I don't know, features. You can just display the first two in the teaser view, and all 2,000 features in the full view and so on, without having actually the user to input twice the data in the item view. So this is one of the most used features, at least for us, in the position layouts. So when you go actually into the renderer layout, it works as any Joomla template. So you check the position. If the position is not empty, you actually render the position. It's exactly the same concept with modules in Joomla. So Zoo will check if the element is present and if the element has actually content. So if the user doesn't input anything in a text element, for example, it will not render the element at all. So it's not element empty with all the divs and paragraph and whatever. It will skip that one. So it actually checks for the element to have a valid value. And then you just render the position like you render a model position. As in Joomla, you have various ways of rendering that position. So in Joomla, you have XHTML, model Chrome, or custom model Chromes. In Zoo, you have something like that. It's called element renderer, which I listed here. You can go and check them. But basically, you can render, I don't know, a div, a P, a UL list, an order list, an unordered list, comma separated values, dash separated values, pipe separated values. Or you can actually create a new renderer for joining, I don't know, with asterisks or whatever. So if you have, for example, Bootstrap and you want to have, I don't know, a list with the Bootstrap styles, you can create a renderer that uses the Bootstrap class names as the actual renderer for the element. So it's very, very flexible as a system. Okay, so next step. I don't remember what's step 3. So it's, then you can, it's also very flexible when reusing pieces of the template. So for example, you have the front page view, the category view, and you need to display items inside both of them. You can reuse that template piece in both situations, like you do with Joomla with load template. You know, in any component or in any template override, you can split the actual HTML code in several files. Here you can do the same. That's called partials. So instead of repeating code in both the category and the front page, you can go here and say, here print the categories, and here print the items. And when you use this partial call here, it will search for an underscore prefixed file with that name and just include it. So you can actually reuse pieces of templates everywhere. So if I go here, it's just the same thing I coded before, moved in a separate file, so I can use it both in front page and category without having to double code everything. So you can just call back any HTML file. This is the first important customization you can do. The second one is called element render, which is what I just spoke about. So for example, I want to display my items in the front end with with a label before the element, which is inside a strong element, instead of just having label and value separated by double dots. So what I did here was create a new element, a new element renderer besides the core Zoo ones, which simply checks if you specify that label in the configuration of the element. And if you did specify that label, actually write strong label and then render the element. And when I go to the layout for that. When I want to render with that special kind of renderer, I just use style, strong label. That will actually go through each element of that position list and use this renderer to print each of the elements. Okay, step 4. I don't remember. Step 4 is custom elements and elements overrides. So it's all cool because you know, when you go to this list here and create your type, you see I can do almost everything. I can have a text box, a text area, email, number, image, whatever you want. But in this case, I wanted to have a color picker for my user to choose which color the t-shirt is without actually going to Photoshop, check the RGB code or whatever, and copy-paste that into my administration section. So I wanted to have an element which shows the jQuery color picker and automatically let the user use that for his data implementation. What I did was use this elements folder. Inside each application, you can add as many elements done by you as you want, and Zoo will automatically pick them up and add them to the list in the backend without installing anything. So I added this color picker element. I will not show the code because it's not long, but doesn't actually mean anything in this situation. With a couple of parameters like how to display the color in the front end as a box with a circle with the color inside, or I don't know, as a RGB code printed out. I dropped it into my application, and if I go to my edit element, now I have this color picker, new element, which I found here with all its custom properties. And if I go into my edit screen, I will see this new super cool element which I can just click and go around and use, I don't know, this blue, save it, and then go to the item and see, I don't know, a box with the blue. Because if I want to make that bigger, I created in the parameters for the color picker these four parameters which default values, but I can actually go with the UI into the color picker element and say it's not 25 pixels, it's 100. It's 100 pixels. Save that, and crossing fingers, live demo are dangerous. Okay, you have this new box. So what I do with my clients usually is try to make them the administrator interface as easy as possible for them. So even if I could use a text element for this kind of behavior in which they could enter manually the color code, I prefer them to use a custom element with a color picker because that's easier for them than having to go through Photoshop or whatever and do this. So I always ask myself if I can reuse something, and if I cannot, I try to build some new cool element that I can maybe reuse across all my websites or whatever. And it's actually pretty easy to create a new element if the element logic is not super complicated. So if usually elements are just displaying things, so color pickers or rating elements or whatever. So you just need to list the name and the parameters you want the user to be able to change, and write a small PHP class that does something like displaying and editing. In this case, I just needed to load a couple of extra CSS and JavaScript files for the jQuery UI color picker. And then just add the extra parameters to render the actual box in the front end, taking into account the parameters I set in the layout, so that those box size and border or whatever. So I just had to code this actual span style going through the zoo parameters to actually render that. And that's it. So this small class, like 50 lines of code, takes care of the entire edit, save, whatever, without actually doing anything else. But other than this, you can also use a core element. Like, I don't know, I don't like the rating element stars. I don't know if you ever saw that. But if you go here, there is this rating element here. Maybe I don't like the stars, or I want them spaced more, or I don't want this 0.5 rating, 0 volts below. I just want the stars. I don't actually need to create a new element for that, because I can just override the small layout of the single element to display what I want. So I just need to create inside the same elements folder as before a rating element, which is it's the zoo one. I just create an empty folder with the same name inside my application, and just override the small TMPL file, like you do template overrides for components. You can do just for the small piece of the element. I change this, and for example, I can just, I don't know, do a. Oh, sorry, I'm late, maybe? Okay. So I can do, I don't know, I can write a big header one. We are at job. So, blop. Copy this, refresh. I did something wrong. Oops. It's step 4. Yep. And then you can do the same for CSS or JavaScript files, because they are all loaded relatively at the position you are in. So if you override the CSS file, it will use yours and not the zoo one. If you override the JavaScript file, it will use yours and not the zoo one. So it works for media files, images, and PHP layouts. So it's very flexible for any situation. So up until now, I don't know how much time I have left. 15 minutes. Okay. So step 4 is done. Now I can count very well, it seems. Okay. No one else is saying that. The last 2 steps are a bit more advanced. Other than overriding, creating new elements and layout stuff, templating, and whatever, you can actually use Zoo to do custom behaviors, like creating a custom component. The latest one I did was ice cream seller website. So this client of mine has an ice cream shop in the city, and wanting to do like pizza delivery, he wants to do ice cream home delivery, which is a pretty cool idea if you think about it. Yep. Yeah. So what he did is he bought a new motorcycle, the Vespa. So it's also pretty nice to look at, with a ice box in the rear, and people can go to his website, check all the tasties of the ice cream, put them into the cart, rent it without paying, because the paying is done on the delivery, and he receives an order and just prepares the ice cream and send it with the Vespa. That was done in Zoo, is being done in Zoo actually. So it's not a standard catalog. There are some actions actually done on the tastes, like add to cart, store the order, send the email, and blah, blah, blah. And that was possible without hacking Zoo and with just a couple of additions, with like one controller and one view extra from the core Zoo. So you can actually do a lot of things that will require a lot of work if you do that in a custom component. Because since Zoo is already good at cataloging things and displaying things, that is already taken care of, and you just have to deal with the extra bits of action that the user can do on his website. So I will just show 2 examples, one in step 5 or 6, depends on if I can count or not, on what you can do. And what we do as Zoolenders, actually, we use these 2 last steps to create new things without hacking Zoo, just by using Zoo events, like plugin events, or just by creating new elements and putting them into the right folders. You can always uninstall them, and it works. We don't interfere with anything. So what I did here, I want to take action and like do something whenever an item loads or a category loads. Or for example, the best example of this is integration with ERP systems or CRM systems. I want, every time I save an item, I want to send an email, or I want to store them into another system, or I don't know, version control, whatever. I can just plug into the Zoo behaviors like loading, saving, tagging, deleting, and whatever, and do something whenever Zoo does one of these actions. So in this case, if I remember correctly, yep, this was the PHP empty class we had before for the application. I just overloaded the dispatch method by adding an event binding, like you do in Joomla with plugins. Zoo has a manual event binding approach, so you cannot just name the function as the plugin event name. You have to actually tell Zoo, use this function for this event, because it's faster, it's less intensive on the system. So I tell, whenever a new category is actually loaded, call category loaded event method, sorry, which can be here or in whatever class you want. This is actually the call user function in PHP for the developers here. And so I want to show an extra message, like a log message, every time I load a category, for example. Stupid example, but works. So I go back here, enter a category. Oh, sorry, I have to actually enable this behavior, like copying over. So every time I load this, it shows me we have loaded the category men's t-shirt. If I go to the root, we have loaded men's t-shirt and women's t-shirt. I could, for example, inject into any other event. There is a list in our website. But basically, for each resource you have, so element, item, category, front page, tag, application, you can buy to loading, saving, deleting, displaying. So for example, if you know we have, give me an example, Median, where we bind to something. Zoolingual. I don't know if you use it, but basically it's a plugin that you can install in your Zoo environment and brings multilingual features to Zoo in a very easy way. So instead of having like Joomfish, in which you have your component and then you go to Joomfish or Joomla Translation Manager or whatever to like copy each instance of your item in the various languages, in your Zoo element list, you can just drop in one element per language, but just for the elements you actually need to translate. So the image, for example, not always need to be translated, nearly never. So I don't need to actually copy-paste the image for each language. I can just change the name and the text description, for example, one for each language. And what we did was bind the before display. There is a before display event in Zoo. And before displaying, we check if that element is for English or for Italian or for Spanish. Check the Joomla language, which is active at the moment, and if they are not the same, not display that particular item. So what the result is, when you switch back and forth the languages, Zoo automatically displays one element or the other. And it's very cool for the user because when they enter the Zoo item, they have all the languages inside the same UI. So they have description, English description, name, English name, I don't know, whatever, image, just a single image field, and so on. And we did that by using this kind of events. This is the first active action you can do with Zoo, and it's very cool because you can then integrate it with anything else. The second thing you can do, one of the other things you can do actually, is custom controller. Custom controllers is what makes Zoo applications similar to Joomla components. You can actually create new MVC triads in your applications to do custom things. So as in the ice cream example, the add to cart action is not something that Zoo does, but you can create a cart controller in this application and just create either a link in your template or a new element, or just write a link that goes to that controller and say saves this item to the database. And that it's very easy to do because you just need to create inside your application PHP. You just need to tell Zoo, I have extra controllers in my application, or I have an extra class in my application, I have an extra view in my application. It's in the controllers folder, or I can call this even whatever. And you tell them whatever thing I put there, it's actually a controller. So I register this new path into the controller list for Zoo, and then Zoo will look into this, check the name of the controller as Joomla does. The workflow is the same. So if I have an URL which is com.zoo and controller equals demo in this case, and task equals JAB13, I can actually reach that new controller from my application. So in this case, what I did was create a new controller, which, if called, just sends do something cool message back. And I use Ajax to call this controller to show an alert on the user side, on the website. 5 minutes, thank you. So refresh. When I go into one single item, I created this additional button here in my template. And if I remember correctly, it's just, sorry, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember. No, second. Maybe it's a custom element. Yep, I create a new element, which I call JAB, and that renders just a button and a JavaScript function that whenever the button is called, it goes to the right URL, which is, I don't know if you can see this, but is index.php option com.zoo, this new controller I just created, the task format row for obviously Ajax calls, and the current application ID, because since the controller is inside this particular application, it's available only and only when you are inside this application. So if you have multiple applications, it will work only on the one you specified. So whenever I actually click on the demo button, it will, let's open the network inspector. Network inspector. If I do demo, it will go with jQuery, I forgot the second parameter of JRoute, as a get, and fetch the answer, which is do something cool, and display that as an alert. So if I change my do something cool, wherever that was, controllers demo, to do something cool during the JAB13 presentation, copy that over, and demo, it works. So you can, if you have, my usual workflow is, if I have an application that can be associated with a catalog or a displaying a very good displayer, which is Zoo, I don't create a new component from scratch with all the fields and all the layouts and all the views just for that extra bit. I just use Zoo for everything, and when I need that extra bit, I code it like this. So this is the end of my presentation, so if you have any questions. Yep.
So my question is, this events thing, can you use, for instance, content to get your articles?
Yep.
And show them in the admin panel, not in the front end. It's clear that you can do that.
Yep. In the admin, you mean inside the Zoo edit?
In the Zoo
edit form? Yep. You can do that. The way I would do that is with a custom element. So you create I don't know, content element, in which in the edit method you go to content data table, or using the model or whatever, fetch a list or a single item, and fetch that and display in that piece of the element.
Well, my question, instead of is populating the item list,
using
in the admin, using content but not duplicating it in the database. Just for the user to think he has all his elements in Zoo, but they are actually...
so a Zoo item is actually the content article,
yeah,
in the Zoo admin list.
Yeah, but it's not into Zoo.
Yeah, it's not actually in Zoo.
Not syncing, but...
Yeah, probably you can do that. You can do that. It's a bit complicated because actually you're doing something not in Zoo. But in my opinion, if you go into the application class or in the category class and bind it in it or this application PHP or category PHP, binding to either the load method of each one or the dispatch method. And so whenever it fetches new categories, you can add to the push to the array of categories this new contents, whatever. Yes?
If you talk about your customers, they do things through the front end, or
depends on how complicated is the extension. So if it's a simple catalog, you can use the front end edit of Zoo. I don't know if anyone has tried it, but it uses the sub.
I mean, with galleries, creating galleries, you know, with a single goes automatically, but then the customer cannot create it from the front end.
Yeah, you can create it from the front end using the front end submission in Zoo. Come to me later. It's a bit longer to explain. Basically, Zoo has this submission thing. I don't know if you know, but you can create layouts that user can use to display a form in the front end and create new items. But you can use the same method to edit items because there is an element called edit. If you place that, you click on edit, and it will populate that submission form, which usually is empty, with all the item information. And so galleries could work like that. I can show you later on. It's a very particular case. Yep.
Except from your documentation on GitHub, is there somewhere where we can read about all this stuff?
Yep. yootheme has partial documentation on this. It's very good on the layout part, so renderers, positions, whatever. Not so good on the code part, so controllers, event, and those kind of things. But I documented everything into these steps. I just didn't show you, but if you go into each folder or each class, it has a very large block comment on the top with all the cases and function calls you can do. For the events list, you just have to open zoo, the zoo actual component. So, for example, sites JAB13 com zoo. You see an events folder, and here you have all the possible events coded already. So, for example, you want to do something with the item. You go to the item class, and you will see the list of all the events you can use and bind to. So, init, saved, deleted, state changed, before display, after display, before save category relations. And it will also show you how to use the parameters that the event passes you. So, for example, the init event, it shows you that to get the item, it's been loaded. You have to call the event getSubject method, and you have the item, and so on. So this is also a good reference. But for starters, use my GitHub. That's one of the main reasons I did this talk, was to create that fake application in all the comments. That goes also for the XML files. Each parameter and group parameter is documented in XML file.
Right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.